Okay, this is the extent round. The question is, should colleges pay more attention to academic scholarships as opposed to athletic scholarships? Here I go. It was a it was about 2 years ago when my little brother told me he wanted to be like the amazing college basketball player John Wall. Now, knowing the brother that I know, he gets influenced by a lot of things. And so I thought maybe it's because we watch too many college basketball on TV. But yet, after a long thought process, I came to the firm conclusion that it wasn't our great amount of college basketball on our TV, but rather it is the college organizations' fault themselves. The NCAA now pays more attention to athletics as opposed to academics. We now see more athletic based things on television as opposed to academics. This being, for example, how great and popular March Madness is as opposed to any math, science, or robotics competition per se. Yet, this then raises the question, should these colleges be paying more attention to these academic scholarships as opposed to the athletics? Today we will answer this with a firm yes, and we will go about defending our argument via a three-step analysis. The first of this including how first, too many of these athletic scholarships sets a bad example for our young students. Secondly, we will examine how too many athletic scholarships ruins opportunities for emerging jobs. And lastly, we will analyze how there is no financial future in the athletic field. Now, first, we must greatly examine how this sets a bad example for our young eye. The New York Times of October 21st of 2011 talks about how the pop culture emphasizes sports currently. We can see how this sets a bad example for our young students. More and more students want to be like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, or Aaron Rodgers, as opposed to very successful leaders like Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, or Warren Buffett. This is really bad because now students believe that they can just run, jump, or flatten someone to the ground and get into colleges easily. This not only is bad for them currently and will not help them in their college future, but will also create unproductive leaders of tomorrow for America. But while the NCAA still fails to enforce these academic scholarships over these athletic scholarships, they do recognize the fact that this can be wrong. And as according to the Washington Post by Jimmy Curley of the March 1st of 2011, the NCAA has proposed a reduction in these athletic scholarships by 25%. Yet the NCAA, although they want to reduce the athletic scholarships, fail to realize that forever academics will be more important than athletics. Thus, we can come to the conclusion that the NCAA should rather reduce the athletic scholarships by 25% while raising the academics by 75%. This will greatly enforce just how more important academics is for athletics. And this will make it more attainable by our students. And not only will it allow more and more students to work harder in academics so they can attain more of these athletic scholarships that are being placed out in front of them, but will also create better and more productive leaders of tomorrow, leaders that we currently need to reform our nation. And it will also help them fill in jobs that may need filling in the future. This then leads to our second argument as to why these athletic scholarships should enforce academic scholarships as opposed to athletics. This being for the reason that if they enforce more athletic scholarships, it will not fill in the spots for emerging jobs. Mark Kurtzworth, a publisher for the Washington Post article of November 15th of 2011, states it best when he says that more and more of these scholarships are being based on the criteria of the students, predominantly in sports and in the arts. But while we can come to the conclusion that the students finding their passion through the sports and the arts is great to our culture. After all, the arts and sports builds this nature. Everyone gets routed up when these two come in. Yet academics is still more important and will be more important in the future. Mr. Kurtzworth also talks about how the jobs of the future will be more based around math, science, and technology. If we allow more academic scholarships to go around, there will be students who can take these courses and fill in those jobs that will come in the near future. And the United States also needs jobs around these fields to recreate our economics. After all, the technological advancement of the United States greatly defends this. But while these academic fields are important, we can see how the colleges still fail to realize so, thus giving out more athletic scholarships and creating more and more unproductive leaders of tomorrow. But if we do not have people to fill in these jobs, people will not have the financial future in which they need. This then leads to our third and last argument of today, which is if more of these athletic scholarships are given around, it means more students will be entering college in the athletic fields as opposed to the academics, which means that they will pay more attention to the athletics as opposed to the academics, and in the near future will not have a strong athletic future. And this is greatly defended by Mark Kurtzworth again, who states that the arts and the athletics, while the arts and the athletics have plenty of money, in the near future, it will not be the area where people may be able to attain their money from. This being that the athletic and the arts are only weakening and weakening. If more and more students take these athletic scholarships, it will mean that they will be more liable to them, which means that in the future they will pay attention more to in their colleges while paying more attention to athletics. They will not have that strong financial future because the athletics is only weakening. We must also turn to Kenneth Jost of the Congressional Quarterly Researcher article of February 25th of 2011, who talks about how Manute Bol, the famous 1980s basketball star, lost all his money because he did not receive a college degree. While Manute Bol was favored by many, he soon was unpopular, and this is mainly because his wife robbed him of all his money from the bank, leaving him with the firm's 0%. Manute Bol found himself collecting money from family, asking them to live with them, and then again finding himself dead in a homeless shelter. We can see how Manute Bol greatly demonstrates how some athletes are just homeless based on the fact that if they get injured, they will just use up the money in which they have already until it's gone. And so there is no financial future in the athletics field. So these students should be paying more attention to academics, especially in the technology, math, and science field, because it will only help them in the future. But yet again, on the contrary, we hear many people say is that about 80% of those who graduate from college through an athletic scholarships graduate from it with a degree in a different field. But we never ask if that field is their strongest in the future. Is it helping them in finance when they grow up? This can only be answered by the contrary, but we'll stick to our 3 points, being the ones that we observe today. First being how if colleges pay more attention to athletics, then it will set a bad example for our young eye. Secondly, we saw how it will ruin opportunities for emerging jobs. And lastly, today, we examine how if these colleges pay more attention to athletic scholarships as opposed to academic scholarships, these students who are taking these athletic scholarships will not have a strong future. And maybe if they do so, my brother will change his mind and say, I want to be like Mark Zuckerberg.